Hi, Blogging Heads viewers. This is Daniel Strauss of Woodruff and Strauss and Politico, and I am here with show regular at this point, Jessie Opoien. Wait, how many times have you been on?
I want to say 3 or 4, but I've never been on with you. I've only been on with Betsy.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
You pulled the short straw this time. I'm sorry. It was my week. So, Jessie, today, you Wisconsin reporter extraordinaire, yesterday was a big day as Scott Walker, and even saying this kind of surprises me still, dropped out of the presidential race. There were some rumblings I had heard yesterday, some comparisons to Tim Pawlenty. What should we make of this? And where were you when the Walker news broke? Or, had you sort of, we had sort of, there were weird things in the air. There was Rick Wiley, Walker's campaign manager, doing an event in Washington, D.C. while Walker was in Wisconsin, which seemed odd since Wiley's usually very near Walker.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of silence from the Walker campaign.
It was a weird day. Yeah, I was actually on the phone with Charles Franklin of the Marquette poll talking about Walker's poll numbers when I got this press release in my inbox. And I was like, all right, press conference at 5 o'clock, unannounced. That can only be one thing.
Right.
But yeah, it was a total surprise. I talked to
you like me had been suspecting that it was the days were numbered and short.
Definitely suspecting the days were numbered, but just didn't really expect it to happen yesterday or even this week. I think I and many others assumed he would try to give himself some time to bounce back from that latest poll and see if he could get back up even to, higher single digits. But, he didn't wait around.
No, he didn't. Not at all. Is that characteristic of him? I mean, there's been so much talk of how much he wins. Seeing him lose is pretty unique, and he did it very quickly.
He did. I guess the thing about Scott Walker is when he sees a path to victory, he takes it. But if he doesn't, and that's unusual. The last example we have of this is 2006 when he was thinking about running for governor, and Congressman Mark Green was sort of the preferred Republican candidate, and Walker gave it a shot for a little while, and when he saw that the support wasn't there, he bowed out pretty early on. That got him a lot of goodwill and really helped lead him to a successful run just 4 years later, and set him on a path for 3 victories in a row.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, that's what some of the rumblings has been since then, right? Or since then, less than 24 hours ago.
Right.
That he is not quite. I mean, that he's not done. He said he was suspending his campaign, so he could maybe come back if there's a brokered convention or something.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't see that coming.
No, I think he sets himself up maybe for a VP nomination, or he just gets himself enough goodwill to do this again in a few years.
But the issue is, does he have even a constituency that would, unite someone or the party? Or, what value is there to having Walker as your VP?
That's a good question. I mean, he obviously doesn't have the charisma or even the... He doesn't appeal to a very specific demographic very easily. There could be something to be said for some of the things that people liked early on about him, and the winning 3 times in the blue state of Wisconsin. And, if it turns out that union stuff does resonate with people, then that's his big pull. But I think the thing that doomed his presidential campaign is the same thing that would keep him from being a VP pick, is that it wasn't really clear why he was running other than he wanted to do it.
I think that's what all these guys do, though. I mean,
well, yeah.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying, that it wasn't totally clear what his forward-looking message was, or his vision, I guess. I guess his vision.
I mean, he was going to wreak havoc, yeah. and we weren't really sure how that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I mean, I'm still sort of flabbergasted by all this. Like, because it, for so long he was the top tier candidate, and it's not. I was saying to my coworker, it's different from like John Huntsman getting into the race, who had a lot of hype, and then he got into the race and never caught fire. Walker had a lot of hype before the race, got into the race, and then just plummeted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I likened it to a reverse Drake lyric. He started at the top, and now he's here.
Yeah. So what sense have you gotten from home base or the home state about sort of any of this? Was this? I mean, it sounds like you felt this was coming soon.
Soon, yes, but I think I was surprised. Everyone I've talked to was surprised that it was yesterday. The Tim Pawlenty comparison is interesting, and it's not completely invalid. I know he got that a lot early on and was trying to prove that wrong. I talked to a Republican in Iowa yesterday who said Tim Pawlenty fell victim to a woman with crazy eyes, and Scott Walker fell victim to a billionaire with crazy hair.
Wait, who's the billionaire that's referring to?
Donald Trump.
Oh, Donald Trump. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think we can blame it all on Trump, but I guess I see the point in trying to draw that comparison. I think people were expecting a change. People were expecting maybe a shakeup in campaign staff, or
and that was part of the. I mean, that was apparently part of the problem, that Walker is so used to being his own sort of top strategist. He didn't really want to admit that on the presidential level, you are a product, and you need someone to tell you you're wrong, you can do this, you can't do this, you need to do this better, or something. Absolutely.
I mean, he's been successful running his own show at the state, at the county level, the state level. Moving that from state to national, it's a totally different ballgame, and you can't be your own strategist. And by all accounts, he definitely was.
I had heard rumors of some kind of shakeup or something, and there might be like furloughs or layoffs, but there was never any reporting that like had that down pat. There was, I think the closest was actually from my colleague Alex Eisenstadt, when they announced Chris Levitt to run Walker's Virginia operation. And Chris Levitt is a pretty big name, Virginia Republican strategist. But that was as close as it got, really.
Yeah, there were rumors and whispers for days, before and after the debate of, are you going to get rid of some top-level staff? Or are you going to cut stuff down? But I think we were all sort of chasing after the same thing and not really getting an answer beyond, we'll see.
As far as you can tell, what was different from Walker, the presidential candidate, compared to Walker, the gubernatorial candidate?
That's a good question. Inconsistency was a big thing. In gubernatorial races, he's showed shifts in rhetoric, I guess. He's framed issues maybe more soft or more firm, but he hasn't really strayed from his core beliefs. And, the birthright citizenship thing was just odd for him. The ethanol subsidies early on was another thing where he, from week to week almost, was framing it in entirely different terms rather than just maybe, highlighting it a little bit more or putting it in more of a hardline stance. So that was unusual. I think that was the biggest thing, was that sort of lack of focus. He's been really good at staying on message as a gubernatorial candidate, and did that really well early on as a presidential candidate. But even that seemed to fall apart. And when he went back to sticking on message, it just came across as sort of bland and robotic. And, while that has looked like discipline in the past, it started to look like you don't really have anything beneath the surface when you're up on stage next to a Chris Christie or a Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I think the sense I got is that his performance in these debates were really lackluster. He didn't get a lot of time to speak, and when he did speak, it was not super memorable. But this is one thing that a lot of the Republican presidential campaigns have been grumbling about, which is, how do I differentiate myself in a field where everyone says I'm solidly conservative but not crazy, and there are more than a dozen competitors here. And we have this, and the assumption is that, and seems to be, coming to fruition in a certain way, that there are going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be, bursts, and so you don't want to peak too early.
Yeah.
And the Walker campaign, I think the harsh critique of the campaign is that they didn't believe that, and they thought they could just lock up Iowa, scare everyone off, and then ride that momentum into later states. Didn't happen. No, I mean, when you feel like you've got Iowa on lock, and then months later you have to say we're going to be spending all of our time in Iowa, that's not a good sign. I guess the other critique there is that he just wasn't prepared for that peak. They didn't know that it was going to happen that early. Of course, you can't predict those things, but they staffed up so hard and so fast, and they had a full-time photographer and these consultants for special demographics and interests, and it looked really impressive. Demographics consultants?
There was one that was just for evangelical outreach that struck me as I think you guys might have actually
we mentioned that, but I couldn't remember if there were because one thing I never saw was a Hispanic chair or an African Americans outreach chair.
No, I don't think there was anything like that. I was set to run an enterprise story this week on how he's been addressing race in the campaign.
Oh, Jessie,
maybe go on hold.
I was helping out on a story yesterday on Walker donors when this happened, and the announcement just tanked the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, so
but no, I don't think he had ethnicities or gender or anything like that mapped out, but he had a far-reaching staff. He had a really impressive looking operation, and when he was doing well, it looked really good, but when he was starting to struggle, people started to wonder if that was excessive or too hopeful too early on.
So I kind of want to vomit in asking this question, but I'm going to anyway. Do you think he's going to run again? Because isn't that the tone, or isn't that kind of what the message he's playing off? He's done this before, and he wants to just curry favor to pick it up later.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, and I would be surprised if he didn't. That speech yesterday was doing this for the good of the party. I'm doing this for the good of the country. No one drops out of a presidential race for the good of the party, but of course that'll earn him some points. He's not, saying anything bad about anyone right now. I can't imagine that he wouldn't give this a shot in the future. It would be unfathomable, I think.
Well, Scott Walker Redux. Here we go, I guess. I don't know.
Time to get ready.
So that leaves who do we have left as a Midwestern Republican candidate? Just Kasich, right?
Kasich, yeah. What I'm hearing around here is people are into Rubio, they're into Fiorina, and there's talk that Kasich could pick up some ground. You don't hear a whole lot about him in Wisconsin. I don't think I've heard much about him in Iowa, but maybe.
I guess. I don't know. The CNN poll wasn't great for him either, right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Although I will say the contrast between him and Walker is his approval ratings at home are going up while Walker's are totally tanking.
Don Kasich and other prominent Republicans. Remember early on this cycle, Rob Portman thought about running. Rob Portman is senator from Ohio. And he's the complete opposite of Kasich, where Kasich is impulsive, Rob is thoughtful, where Kasich is, sort of not charismatic. I think zesty might be the right word. Rob is
zesty.
A little more down to earth, a little more.
Sure.
Yeah, a little more, right? So a little less unpredictable, I would say.
Yeah.
And he was thinking about running, but then decided against it. So there was that.
Yeah, I had completely forgotten about him, actually.
So does Kasich pick up whatever Walker support, or it goes to Rubio? How does it go to? How do people in Wisconsin even know who Rubio is?
I don't know. Actually, though, I think Rubio's spokesman right now is a University of Wisconsin grad.
Alex
So
Cummings?
yeah,
Really?
I gotta double check that, but I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure.
Huh. All right.
Not that curries Rubio any favor
I don't
with
know.
Wisconsinites,
I always like to,
if anyone would know. Yeah, I guess there was some early on. There was talk that like it was Walker or Rubio in Iowa.
And remember also that Walker, oddly, this is like people have written about like the reasoning for this, but Walker would say like, I think Rubio would make a great VP, which was in this sort of like Mean Girls, passive aggressive sort of like. I don't know. I don't understand the calculus for saying that.
No, that was always odd to me too. And Rubio didn't seem to bristle at it too much, but yeah, I mean, that's not.
No, I think Rubio, as far as I can tell, Rubio's advisors are, the thing about Rubio, I think, is that he can get a little nervous. You saw that a lot during the immigration debate where he would sort of get jittery on the fluctuations there. But I think Rubio's handlers are very much like, just be super, super calm and it'll be okay. And so far, I mean, this might be working. He seems to be, I just wrote up a little while ago a piece on sort of Walker supporters going to other campaigns, and a not so tiny chunk is going to Rubio.
It's true.
So, I mean, including Walker's New Hampshire co-chairman.
That happened like within the same day.
Yeah, it happened like immediately,
like hours.
It was insane. Cliff Hurst. So, I mean, I guess this benefits Rubio, right?
Yeah, it could. And you're here. I guess I'm hearing in terms of donors, it seems like most people are looking at Rubio or Fiorina, and when Fiorina and Walker just don't seem like they're. I don't get what drives someone from Walker's camp over to hers.
I don't understand. I don't understand too much of the similarities between Rubio and Walker either.
No.
They're both top. They were both regarded as top-tier candidates.
Right. I guess Walker got some flack for being out of the state, and Rubio gets some flack for not being there for votes.
Yeah, I guess so.
On a lot of things, they're really not hitting the same points. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's the brunette 40-something male thing.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Team Gen X.
Team Gen X. That's it. I think my big reaction to all of this was that, like, in the primary, because Walker's pitch, and I think more so than Tim Pawlenty, Walker's pitch was, I am the viable conservative candidate with a record, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem... I think that actually... I mean, a lot of Republicans I've talked to, I ask a lot, why is Carson surging? Why is Fiorina surging? They always say, because they're new. And I feel like that is anathema to what Walker had been pitching, which is that I'm not new, I'm familiar, and I'm Midwesty, so I'm trustworthy. And I feel like that's just, I guess that was just not right. Maybe that's, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, he tried really hard to straddle that line between being the outsider and being the experienced politician with a record. He's been in elected office for most of his adult life, and he still sort of, laughs off the label of career politician and says, no, I'm a public servant, and there's a difference.
What's the difference?
Ask anyone else, and there's not.
Right.
So that finally caught up with him. But of course, yes, he hasn't spent time in Washington, and a lot of candidates are senators, and they have. But he's still been in office longer than many of them. But yeah, I mean, at the end of it, it was, I've been tested and I have a record, and if you want an outsider, this guy's been in office since his early adulthood.
I mean, well, rest in peace, Scott Walker, 2016 campaign.
Yeah.
You know, it was short but sweet. I guess we hardly knew you. I don't know.
I know. Yeah.
It is a dramatic plummet. You know, and it is because it was not like. I mean, going in, he had a big name. There was a lot of hype. He had a team from Washington that was pretty well regarded. That was very well regarded. A lot of RNC alums. You know, and there were, you know, you contrast that with other campaigns that have overall averaged like much worse than Walker, and it's surprising that Walker is out.
It is.
Especially since there were a lot of assumptions you can see just by like attacks from the Democratic National Committee that they assumed Walker was going to be in here for a long time. It wasn't.
He wasn't. I know, he was supposed to be the guy who could swim in all the lanes, who could challenge a Democrat. Yeah. I mean, the other point too is, I mean, this is most of his elections in Wisconsin have been in off years, and he hasn't had to compete against serious Republicans for a very long time. Mm-hmm. That was how
much of it do you think it was Trump, though? I don't actually think a huge amount.
I don't think it was a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, he never really attacked Trump.
No. I mean, they had their little bits every now and then, but I don't think it was anything that anyone hadn't said before. It's not like Walker supporters were going to Trump. You know, right. They weren't defecting to him. But
right, they're going to Rubio and Jeb.
Yeah.
I get Jeb. I get you want, gubernatorial experience, but Rubio still baffles me. But like, you know, he's more than treading water. He's consistently laid low, but remains in a good place in the polls right now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's ostensibly their gain. The top two other candidates, and not so much Trump.
No.
I guess just in the end, we have a board like Jim Gilmore and Martin O'Malley outlasted Scott Walker. Who saw that coming?
That George Pataki outlasted Scott Walker.
George Pataki outlasted.
Lincoln Chafee outlasted Scott Walker.
Yeah, Jim Webb outlasted. I mean, but maybe that's not so much like a sense thing. The past few Democrats we mentioned are extremely unlikely to be presidential candidates.
Right.
So there you go. Well, listen, Jessie, this was fun. Unless you have anything else to add here, that's it. Thank you for coming up. We kind of scrambled to get you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
What happens next in the Midwest, do you think? What's important to know about Iowa going forward?
Iowa.
Yeah, where does the support go for in Iowa? I mean, are you surprised that he collapsed there and Donald has shot up there, but I just don't see they're like analogous to each other.
No, I don't think so, and I don't think Trump in Iowa is sustainable. But I mean, for months long before Walker was struggling, when I would go to Iowa and talk to people there, Carly Fiorina was a name that kept coming up, and every time, she was the candidate who, people hadn't heard of her or didn't really know what she was about, and then if they got the chance to hear her speak at one of the forums, they would come away saying, I kind of want to find out more about her. So for whatever that's worth, maybe she capitalizes on this a little bit, and oddly enough, still, Rubio was kind of the other name that would keep coming up early on. I did talk to one guy who consistently told me that Rubino was his first choice.
Rubino?
Rubino.
What is Rubino?
That's Rubio.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
good.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, he's got most of the letters on there.
Exactly.
So,
those two could do well in Iowa. And I guess what'll be interesting to watch, too, is having a debate in Wisconsin. I don't know the last time that happened, but it's going to be weird to not have Walker in that and to see who comes away from that. Do
you think Walker is likely to endorse anyone?
I don't.
Why?
Well, not for a while. I would say at this point, there's not really a clear winner. So does he really want to hitch his wagon to someone who might not go anywhere? And also, what does his endorsement really do right now?
I don't know. Curry's favor, locks him up down the line, maybe gets him a VP. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we're at the phase where candidates start thinking about their endorsement and what they can get in cabinet positions and all that.
Yeah.
So
I think down the line he very well might, but I don't think he will anytime soon. And I think also he wants to probably try to give the impression, the first thing he did this morning was at least publicly tweet a picture from his official governor's account, which he hasn't really been using a whole lot, of him meeting with his staffers here. I think he really wants to work on presenting himself as totally focused on this job for a while, which I could see him maybe just not entering that debate for a little bit.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Okay, Jessie Opoien, Capital Times, right?
Yeah.
That is, thanks for coming on. It's good talking to you again. Let's meet up next time we're in the same state.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thanks, Jessie.
Thanks.